Hi, this is Bruce Rawles. I'm speaking today again with Susan Dugan, a longtime friend and fellow course student. And today we thought it would be helpful to talk about the conclusion of the workbook, which is the introduction to the final lessons, and then the final lessons, which is lessons 361 to 365. And we're recording this a couple of days before the end of the year, December 29th, 2021. And it's a nice bookend of the year, and some good perspective. And I appreciate the choice, Susan. It's a really sound one.
Yeah, I
So
think it's very appropriate to use as a sort of, it ends the workbook, and it which only means the beginning of our journey of practicing, but it gives really a great template for what it means to be a student of Jesus, Holy Spirit, to change the purpose of our lives to a classroom of a new kind of forgiveness, and which involves, releasing our belief that we know better, and that we know why we're upset, that we know what would make us happy, that we know anything pretty much.
yeah.
I'm finding.
Yeah, it's just that happily clueless state is one that I'm finding more and more not only helpful but appealing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Because
So
when I really allow myself to, usually begrudgingly enter that state, it's like, oh, that's actually very pleasant and very peaceful.
right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So I think it's just, it really, and it gives us, it's beautifully written,
Mhm.
as most of the course is, but it also just, to me, it just seemed like although we have that New Year's prayer that's at the end of chapter 15, and we've talked quite a bit about that in the past, but this also to me seems like a nice companion piece to that, about, how do we go forward from here? And at a time when we're in the dream, when we're, thinking, hopefully having some moments, time to reflect and think back. We've been through some pretty difficult dream years here. The last two have been a real doozies. And so, as we move into a new year with whatever kinds of hopes we are bringing with us as personal selves, I think it's really a good time to pause and reconsider what really, what really is our purpose and what really brought us to the course in the first place, which, for most of us, for me, I know in particular, it was a sense of feeling unloved and unloving, within. I mean, not that there was something wrong, that it wasn't, that I never really felt genuine, and I felt like there was something that insincere, like not really true about the way I was trying to navigate my relationships, and all of the manipulating that we kind of have to learn to do. It just didn't feel, it didn't feel kind, and I didn't feel kind, and I felt that, and I could see that there was a lot of unkindness without seeming, and all people seem to be struggling with that. So I think, the course, we came to the course as Helen and Bill did, asking for a better way of relating to each other here. And that's why the course, even though it's really leading us out of this dream, it starts with our relationships. It uses our relationships because that's where we have invested most of our guilt, over the secret belief that we're separate from God. And that's where we try to manipulate and substitute for that love, and seeking and never finding, a way to fill that lack. And then always trying to covertly, subconsciously, position ourselves as the less guilty ones in any relationship we're in, really, even the best of them. So I think this is a great, what do I really want? What really brought me to the course in the first place? And I think for most of us, what we wanted was to find a better way to relate to each other and to ourselves. And the course is all about giving us that better way. And here we are at the end of the workbook, which is the experiential introduction to the experiential part of the course, which got us to begin to examine the content of our mind, and examine our judgmental thoughts, and become aware of them, and began that mind training of teaching us the real steps of forgiveness that Ken Wapnick talked about at the end, toward the later years of his life, as embodied in lesson, particularly in lesson 5. I'm not upset for the reason I think in lesson 34 I could see peace instead of this. And the first one meaning lesson 5 meaning, it really has nothing to do, this sense of lack that I'm feeling, this sense of something's wrong that I'm feeling, this anger, this anxiety, this dread, this fear, this despair that I'm feeling has nothing to do with the person that seems to be the problem or the situation that seems to be the problem. It's all about a choice that I'm unconsciously making in the mind to reinforce that sense of guilt, that over believing that I'm separate from God and can't find my way home. And then lesson 34 is that, reminding myself, after first realizing that I'm wrong about the cause, I must be choosing for this part of my mind, this teacher of guilt in the mind, reminding myself that I could see peace in this, that I have another teacher in the mind. I have another presence, a loving memory of wholeness, of what I really am, of what love really means in my mind that I can turn to. And that's what the final lessons and introduction to the final lessons is about, is really say, take my hand, reach out for me, because we've been through, we've talked about through this entire year that you can't do this alone, but that I'm here, that as you go through these seeming clouds of guilt, you can reach for my hand, and it will always be there for you. It's a metaphor, but however we need to feel it in the condition we think we're in, Jesus will help us do that. Using our dreaming to dream ourselves home, to dream ourselves into what true forgiveness is, what true healing is. And experience a shift in the way we view our relationships, not necessarily in the content of the problems that are out there, but certainly in the experience of we can experience peace no matter what's happening, and we're learning that little by little. So
we are indeed.
yeah.
Slowly but surely. Yeah. And again, that being happily clueless, I think, is usually a huge impetus when we recognize that our way just has never worked, isn't working, and will never work, to throw in the proverbial towel on the thought system of insanity. And then the real alternative is waiting patiently in our mind, that appointed friend, as of course designates the Holy Spirit and Jesus as a example that we have a historical connection with typically, but it's so much more than that. And we can truly afford to let go of the craziness that we've been trying to make work, and know that it is well founded. The real alternative is well founded and will take us all the way home. So
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Should we read the introduction?
yeah.
Okay.
You want to read the first one?
Sure. So yeah, this is the in the workbook of A Course in Miracles. These are the final lessons, the introduction. And the first paragraph begins, our final lessons will be left as free of words as possible. We use them but at the beginning of our practicing, and only to remind us that we seek to go beyond them. Let us turn to him who leads the way and makes our footsteps sure. To him we leave these lessons, as to him we give our lives henceforth. For we would not return again to the belief in sin that made the world seem ugly and unsafe, attacking and destroying, dangerous in all its ways, and treacherous beyond the hope of trust and the escape from pain. That last, most of that last sentence, the fifth sentence, is, it's really, to me, there's so much in there that describes the insanity of the ego and how ineffective it is. But to me, the pivotal word is the belief in sin, the belief in separation, the belief in the substitution we made, the belief in specialness. And it's just a belief. And it's a very entrenched belief, but it being a belief, it does mean that it can erode over time and be replaced with the reality that transcends belief. the
Right.
truth that is
We're
eternal.
really learning a new belief system,
Hmm.
a new thought system. And yes, it's just that taking seriously of the tiny mad idea of separation that was the problem that caused us to believe it. But we do believe it.
Right.
And Jesus says, brother, you do believe this, and
Hmm.
throughout the course. And it's necessary. We were talking about in my Tuesday night class last night, that it's necessary for us to acknowledge, to be honest about the fact that we do believe it,
Hmm.
and to be, to really get in touch with. I mean, we don't have to try to get in touch with it. We automatically, if we've come to this course and are trying to practice it, will be getting in touch with the content of our thoughts, which is not is very conflicted and often very unkind.
Hmm.
And so unkind to ourselves, unkind to others, and filled with fear and anxiety and judgment and anger and all of it. And so we have to really see that that the ugliness to begin to want to choose against it. This isn't really a course for people, as Ken often said, are have really happy lives, think that it's working for them, are well defended. There's other spiritual paths that may work for them, and at some point, or maybe they're just not ready for that sort of journey, and that's fine too. We all made it home, but if we, for those of us that have chosen this path, we can't try to then sort of bypass it. We really do have to kind of look at it. It's just really looking at, but we have to do it with that part of our mind that doesn't believe it, right? The part of our mind that doesn't, looks on devastation as the description of the miracle in the workbook, it puts it, but it doesn't take it seriously, right? Doesn't believe it, knows that it's not real. And so yeah, I think there's so much in this first paragraph, and also the sentence, let us turn to him who leads the way and makes our footsteps sure. That's that idea again of taking Jesus's hand. We can't get through these clouds of guilt alone. We have to, we have a teacher within us, and we can't rely on our own strength, because we'd be relying on something that's unreal and is terrified. And is defended. The idea of a personal self is the defense for guilt that the ego made up. And so we have to trust and begin to rely, and forfeit our need to control on this presence in our mind, and begin to cultivate that intimacy, and to change our purpose to wanting to be a student of that loving teaching and loving presence.
Yeah. I mean, when you said forfeit the need to control, I was thinking it's almost humorous when we think we're really forfeiting the belief that we have any capacity for control,
Right.
as well. And we were kind of joking about that before the start of the recording, but we really do think that if we can just master this control panel and figure out how to push the right buttons, move the right levers, turn the right knobs, we'll be able to make the world the way we want it, metaphorically. But
Right.
there's no little hidden control panel that opens up that says, fix everything. The fix everything button isn't there, and it never will be, because we've set it up to be unsolvable. And that's why the course says, we're never going to find a solution that is satisfactory in the world, because we made up the world to hide from what is unsatisfactory. And that really kind of reminds us of not only the need to trust Holy Spirit, because that's the only way out, but usually the prompting takes some form of noticing that we're not at peace.
Right.
And
Oh,
then
absolutely.
yeah, the noticing that we're not at peace really is like, oh, my footsteps are uncertain. I'm wandering through this cave in the dark on my own, and I really need, my my elder sibling with the high intensity floodlight on the helmet to get me through this thing.
Right. And you know, again, it takes that awareness of what I'm feeling. I'm really angry right now,
Mhm.
you know, and that should be our trigger, our red flag that, you know, wow, I must have chosen the ego. You know, we're trying to train ourselves to automatically begin to associate that's the cause. You know, I'm not upset for the reason I think. So we practice that first, and then it becomes more and more automatic that maybe I'm not ready to let go of the anger because I'm not ready to let go of me. But I can at least be honest about it and own the fact that it's not about what I think it is. And you know, I know what it really is about, and you know, I would like to see peace instead of this. Maybe it's when I'm ready, you know, when I'm finished stomping around the house or you know, doing whatever I'm doing, right? But you know, it's those feelings where I'm really sad. I'm feeling a tremendous amount of loss. My gosh, we have so much loss right now in the world. We have so much pain that we're witnessing in so many forms, and so you know, you'd have to be a zombie not to be feeling. And the course isn't telling us not to feel by any means. That's our entry. You know, if anything, this course I think will make you more feeling and more compassionate. And you know, not that you're joining with the pain, but that you recognize that everybody's, you know, I know how painful it is when I'm in it, when I'm have chosen it. And everybody here is fighting that same hard battle to try to find their way home and to try to make this world work with it not working so, you know, spectacularly at times. And so, you know, you really begin to feel that, you know, that loss and that longing for finding real love and finding your way home and finding your way, you know, finding a better way is within every mind, whether that people have reached that awareness yet or not. It's all a call for love, and you know, ultimately, from a practice perspective, it's all my call for love. You know, so you know, you work with that. But anyway, we could talk for, you know, probably the rest of the time just about this paragraph.
Easily, yeah. Yeah, and what you were sharing about, you know, not skipping over steps, and you know, noticing how we feel and being honest with that and bringing that to Holy Spirit or inner kindness teacher, whatever name you want to apply to that, is so important, because you know, on our own, you know, we're just going to do a downward spiral or whatever. We're just, you
Yeah.
know, just never get anywhere. And the isolation and the abandonment and the loneliness really of that thought system was brought out in a conversation this morning in another course class by a fellow course student. And it occurred to me that you know, what we're really all doing is trying to make a belief, trying to reconcile a belief that we abandoned not only each other, but we abandoned our creator. You know, we're trying to figure out how to come to terms with that, because we think we really pulled it off.
Right.
And the Holy Spirit says, no, you didn't. But in order to get back to that place in our mind, to realize that no one has abandoned us, whether it's through COVID or anything else, or you know, because I'm sure if anyone was honest with themselves, they would realize that they've felt isolated or abandoned or alone or in some way neglected or misunderstood, or you know, the list is endless of the variations, long before COVID hit. It's just now we have something to point to and say, now this is the, you know, the ongoing culprit that, you know, there's 8 billion plus of us can point to as as a cause. But it's really ultimately all about the choice in the mind, which is what you were getting to, and you know, refreshing our memory about Ken's suggestion of using lessons 5 and 34. It's like, I'm not upset for the reason I think. Lesson
Right.
5 is like, it's not about what's in the world. It's the decision of my mind
Yep.
that really is the crux of everything, isn't it? Yeah.
It definitely is. Yep.
Do you want to read the next paragraph?
I will.
Okay.
His is the only way to find his, meaning Jesus, Holy Spirit, our teacher, is the only way to find the peace that God has given us. It is his way that everyone must travel in the end, because it is the ending God himself appointed. Not literally, but That's a kind way of putting it, right? God doesn't really know about this because it's not real. In the dream of time, it seems to be far off, and yet in truth, it is already here, already serving us as gracious guidance in the way to go. Let us together follow in the way that truth points out to us. And let us be the leaders of our brothers who are seeking for the way but find it not. And I love that. I mean, I love the idea in the course that, we become leaders of others, we become advanced teachers of God, or even before that, as we're beginning to really practice this and make it the, the primary purpose of my life, of all the roles that I'm playing in my world, to be a classroom of forgiveness. And in that way, I'm demonstrating to all fragments of the decision-making mind that they have that they can make that same choice.
Exactly.
That they also have this memory of, this loving teacher in the mind, this unconditionally loving teacher that represents our innocence and calls to all of us, all, because all are welcome to come home. And, they too can make that same choice. And whether they're ready to do it now or not, as he says earlier, his way is the way that everyone must travel in the end. Everyone makes it home, everyone made it home. And so we don't have to worry about, time is an illusion, is, just a sleight of hand of the egos. And it's just, and, so we have to just sort of trust that, that it doesn't really matter. My choice is all that matters. My choice will bring me peace, and my choice brings peace to all minds through my forgiveness, which is another lesson, right? Prayer from another lesson in the workbook, but
yeah. And really that's the task that everyone has, whether the form may vary widely, but the content is all the same.
Yes.
Of returning home and taking everyone with us.
Exactly.
Yeah, I made a little, just jotted down a couple notes about that, the last part of that sentence about our many brothers who are seeking for the way but find it not. I just jotted down, these are the multitude of projected thoughts we disguise as other people who merely give form to our desires to continue the erroneous belief in separation. We don't need to pack a stadium and share the course's message, or even be concerned if one other person receives Holy Spirit's message, because each seemingly in separate self, individual, one of us, is all that is needed to complete the atonement. Everyone can say, my acceptance of God's plan for salvation through forgiveness is all I need.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And at the same time, because we think we're in a world of multiple people, it typically does have the effect of, that those who are around us find, help. And then the idea of being truly helpful is really just getting out of the way of our resistance to Holy Spirit's message.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, in the next paragraph that you can, actually segues into that purpose, giving us a new purpose of our lives. So I think it's your turn to.
Okay, sure. And to this purpose, let us dedicate our minds, directing all our thoughts to serve the function of salvation. Unto us, the aim is given to forgive the world. It is the goal that God has given us. It is his ending to the dream we seek, and not our own. For all that we forgive will not fail to recognize as part of God himself. And thus his memory is given back completely and complete. And that completeness, I think, is what we're all drawn to. And you were mentioning earlier about, not feeling complete about relationships. It's really, the feeling of isolation, of emptiness, of there's got to be something more. How could a self that's separate from everyone else and everything else feel anything but incomplete and deficient? Yeah.
Right. We all feel like there's something missing in me, and we try to fill that missing piece with another body, right? In a relationship.
Or huge numbers of bodies or whatever.
Or right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, stuff and money and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. And I like that, in that first sentence, and to this purpose, let us dedicate our minds, directing all our thoughts to serve the function of salvation. That's a great description for changing my purpose to make it a classroom of forgiveness, and directing all my thoughts, which means, watching my thoughts, changing my mind, practicing this when I catch myself angry and upset. And, and that's whatever's happening in my life, that's my curriculum, right? Not questioning why it's happening to me, just, realizing that if I'm upset by it, I have work to do, right? And then, to serve the function of salvation. Well, the function of salvation within the dream is forgiveness. We're told again and again in the course, in the workbook and the text, that our only function is forgiveness, right? I think we're told that in the text too. I know we are in the workbook.
It's pretty much throughout in different ways, right?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe not with those exact words in the text, but so yeah, and he goes on in the next paragraph, and it is our function to remember him on earth, to remember that presence of love on earth that reflects God. It's not, we don't go directly to God, but it reflects the love of God, as it is given us to be his own completion in reality. So let us not forget our goal is shared, for it is that remembrance which contains the memory of God and points the way to him and to the heaven of his peace. And our way is shared. It includes everyone. We go home together or not at all. And so we can't make any exceptions to this. And then he goes right to the meat of the course. And shall we not forgive our brother who can offer this to us? He is the way, the truth, and life that shows the way to us. In him resides salvation, offered us through our forgiveness, given unto him. And that actually, and shall we not forgive our brother, the whole rest of that paragraph sort of reminds me of the end of the prayer at the end of chapter 15, that talks about, I release you knowing that we will be released together as I choose my own release. It's really that same idea that, I'm imprisoning only myself with my attack thoughts, with my unkindness, my unforgiveness, and I free myself by changing my mind. And I can't do that alone, because I think I'm forgiving another body, and when I'm really just forgiving that mistaken belief, as you said earlier. Right.
That's it. That's our way out. Yeah.
The formula. Yeah.
It's so simple, and in our saner moments, we realize that and remember it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I was noticing, in him resides salvation, offered us through our forgiveness, not his forgiveness or her forgiveness. I have to forgive through the seeming mechanism of another person, recognizing that I'm truly forgiving myself. It's my own call for help, and that I give that to myself, but I also give it to everyone else at the same time. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yep. Yeah. And then, it goes in the next paragraph to that whole idea of, ending the year of the workbook, but we can use it as ending the beginning a new year, as a New Year's kind of resolution as for students. So
shall I read that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Paragraph 5. We will not end this year without the gift our Father promised to his Holy Son. We are forgiven now, and we are saved from all the wrath we thought belonged to God and found it was a dream. We are restored to sanity, in which we understand that anger is insane, attack is mad, and vengeance merely foolish fantasy. We have been saved from wrath because we learned we were mistaken. Nothing more than that. And is the Father angry at his Son because he failed to understand the truth? Well, I think on the level of form, there may be some parents that may get it, but I think the image there is, an ideal parent having infinite compassion, and that's really, the image that comes across for me, is that we really do have that. In fact, it's so compassionate that the father parent has no cognizance whatsoever of anything that could be amiss, because the course, as the course's metaphysics points out, it's a pure non-dual curriculum, and the creator of us all would not be a legitimate creator if it were divided, because it has to have as its foundation the pure oneness of a transcendent being that it goes beyond anything this course could do other than point the way to. And I think that's why there's so much emphasis on forgiveness and relationships and seeing how we think about everyone and everything, and watching the absurdity of all of our microscopic and macroscopic condemnations and everything in between, and just see, as you were pointing out, we can't skip over steps. We just need to look moment to moment to moment at all the silly and forgivable desolations of
Yep.
each little condemning thought and each little judgment, each comparison that would want to separate
Yeah.
and make evil and make wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also so, this paragraph too also just really is so reassuring. I mean, it's kind of meeting us in the condition we think we're in, and we are forgiven now, and we are saved from all the wrath we thought belonged to God. And it's so comforting. We are restored to sanity, and the whole imagery of a loving father, I think, is just so reassuring to us, because we think anything but that. We think we don't even, I mean, we're so afraid of God that we don't ever even want to think about, contemplate God. We just want somebody to tell us what we have to do to get out of the mess we made. And that's what, and guess what? We invented religions that agree with the whole nonsense. Right.
And even the prodigal son made it through relatively unscathed in the Christian Bible. So I think that's a pretty good story.
Yeah, there are glimmers, but right.
Yeah, that things that made it through, without too much obfuscation or modification, and that one I think seemed to sail
That's
through
true.
pretty cleanly, and it's like, parents aren't angry, nothing happened
Right.
here. Yeah.
But you put it in the greater context of the Bible, and it's
Oh
just
yeah,
on there.
it gets lost pretty fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, sure.
So, okay, we come in honesty to God and say we did not understand. I'm sorry, this is yours to read, I think. Is that right?
I think I just
Is it
read
mine?
5.
I don't know if it's, did you
Go
read?
ahead. Yeah, I read 5.
Okay. We
Yeah.
come in honesty to God. That's so important, bringing the truth of how we're feeling. I'm really angry right now and I don't want to give it up. And say we did not understand, and ask him to help us to learn his lessons. And of course, they're the lessons that, they're the crumbs that we left in our dream to, to find our way out of the dream, to change our purpose for all of these experiences, to a classroom of forgiveness, and climb back up the ladder that separation seemed to lead us down, instead of rooting ourselves more deeply in the dream with the ego's lessons of the same experiences that we've had, right? So we come in honesty to God and say we did not understand, and ask him to help us to learn his lessons through the voice of his own teacher. Would he hurt his son? Or would he rush to answer him and say, "This is my son, and all I have is his"? Be certain he will answer thus, for these are his own words to you, and more than that can no one ever have. For in these words is all there is, and all that there will be throughout all time and in eternity. And that's the top of the ladder when we join with that awareness, right? And kind of, the whole idea of guilt disappears into the nothing from which it came, and the split mind is healed.
Right.
Right.
It may seem like it says, in various places in the course, a long ways off, and yet there's a glimmer. There's like a little, even if it's just like a little pinpoint of light at the end of the tunnel,
Yeah.
just an awareness that there is a resolution and an answer to all of the craziness that this world seems to be an inescapable prison, and keeping us from that light. But there's a little crack always lets a little light in any moment if we're looking for it, and all we have to do is just stay focused on that light. The word honesty in that first sentence.
Yes.
Now I think I've read through the 10 characteristics and the development of trust enough times now that whenever I see the word honesty, I almost immediately think of consistency.
Mhm.
And because that's what it equates in that very brief section. And
Mhm.
I think that's the second of the 10 characteristics. And it's like, well, okay, if I'm truly going to be honest, I have to be consistent in asking for help, being willing to see that my way isn't working, and being, being joyous that I'm wrong about everything. Even
Right.
if I'm not like, just beaming with wow, this is great, but just, even a begrudging willingness, like, well, yeah, okay, yeah, maybe I was wrong about X, Y, and Z, and okay, maybe I could, consider that at some point I'll be willing to generalize to, A, B, and C, and up through W,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
all the permutations. But that consistency is, I think, so crucial to just, catch ourselves over and over and over again wanting to self-sabotage the peace that's possible in any given moment.
Right.
Yeah.
And really to just learn to, include everything, to generalize this
Yeah.
to everything.
Yeah.
And so again, to be very in touch with every, the mild twinge of annoyance,
Mhm.
the whole range of ego emotions that we have that come up for us in our fear, and to, to use them as red flags, right? As best we can. And we're learning, we're still in school. That's why we need a teacher. So we're not advanced teachers of God. We are learning to rise up that ladder and become advanced teachers of God, and applying this more and more and more, and eventually hearing only calls for love, and always answering my call for love in any, seeming form that it seems to be in someone else or something else. But we're not there yet. We don't consistently do that yet, but
Right.
that's the goal.
Yeah.
Again, that's the purpose. And I think we talked about last night in the class. So can I just remember a little more? Can I try to remember my purpose? Can I just reinforce that every morning, or however, whatever step you want to take that might be meaningful for you to really remember your purpose, remember what brought you to the course, remember that you're trying to find your way home, and that's the only real goal that's meaningful. We can all make a lot of resolutions to try to change our world and our lives, and it's the course isn't saying that there isn't anything on the level of behavior that might be kind to yourself to do, but none of it's going to bring me the peace of God. And I have to still, remember that, to make this the most important thing, as Ken said, that is what will speed us along.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that kind of ties into that make this year different by making it all the same.
Mhm.
Maxim that's in chapter 15 is how it's,
Including everything in this. Yeah.
yeah, it just basically say, okay, every single specific experience that I have in this world is an opportunity for me to forgive myself
Right.
for dreaming up a world of separation and believing in it, and believing that I could be stuck with such a
Yeah.
limited self-concept. Yeah.
Yes.
And that, and everyone is freed from that as I free myself.
Right.
And I do that by freeing others from my projections, by seeing how silly they are. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And forgiving myself, and when I'm resistant, just
Mhm.
just saying, oh, I really don't want to do this. That's very, very helpful
Mhm.
to recognize that the
Yep.
ego hides in concealment, as Ken also always said. So
Mhm.
gotcha is a way it has no real power when we've at least seen it. Maybe we're not quite
Right.
ready to let it go fully, but and I'm talking about how this works in practice.
Mhm.
I think is that's the truth. It doesn't always pass immediately. We don't always have peace instead of this, but eventually we have some kind of shift or awareness that in which we are, we have a holy instant outside the dream in which we know that we're wrong, and then we're happy about that. We're really relieved.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
As you're sharing that, I was picturing a dashboard or a cockpit with all the controls, and Holy Spirit keeps saying, well, keep keep peeling all that, all the masking tape and the duct tape that you've layered over the idiot lights, and then you'll see, oh, that's right. Here's one that says, you're out of oil. Here's one that says, low tire pressure, and you're 397 miles off course, and
Right.
all that kind of stuff. And when you first start, looking at that objectively, say, yikes, it's like, but then you realize that, like you say, it's a very helpful information when you realize how upsetting things are, only because we've upset ourselves and we've forgotten to set up, which is choosing the wrong teacher.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting short on our time here, so maybe let's just read you read the first part of this, and I'll read the second part of
That sounds great. That sounds
lessons
great.
361 to 365. The last lessons in the workbook that are repeated several times, and really should be the lesson for every day for us going forward, right?
Yeah. We get 5 days to get a running start at it, and like you say, why not do it throughout the year?
Yep.
This holy instant would I give to you. Be you in charge, for I would follow you, certain that your direction gives me peace. And then you, of course, is the Holy Spirit.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And if I need a word to help me, he will give it to me. If I need a thought, that will he also give. And if I need but stillness and a tranquil, open mind, these are the gifts I will receive of him. He is in charge by my request, and he will hear and answer me, because he speaks for God, my Father, and his Holy Son. So very beautiful.
Indeed. I just had one more little dashboard metaphor for that line. He is in charge by my request. It's almost like there's a little indicator light that says, Holy Spirit is asking, will you allow his tractor beam to take you the rest of the way home? And you just have to press the OK button.
Right. Oh yeah, I guess so.
It's like, oh, well, okay. I mean, we've seen it flashing for eons, how many millions of years or whatever we've been, dilly-dallying around with this, but we're kind of warming up to the idea that, well, maybe we could try that tractor beam and just put it on fully automatic at some point and let Holy Spirit do the heavy lifting. Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad we did this. And
me too. Yeah.
I did want to give a little plug at the end for the Foundation for A Course in Miracles. Has a new website and a new streamed class called Encounters with Ken that it is, I haven't actually had time to watch it yet. It's been a very busy month for me, but it's showing videos of Ken's, excerpts of videos and then having a discussion, an interactive discussion with Jeff Siebert about the content of those, and I'm sure it's fabulous. So I would recommend people check that out. It sounds like a great class, and you can and which I just did today. I purchased it, and it's very inexpensive. It's like $7 or something, and you can purchase it, and you have a week to review it if you can't attend at the time that it's streaming. So that's what I did.
Great idea. I'm going to do that myself. And also there's just a ton of depth and breadth of profound material from the Foundation for A Course in Miracles.
And the bookstore, which just has so many wonderful, they're always running specials on workshops and books. And so it's a wonderful resource.
Yeah. And I'll also put a plug in for the sister organization, the Foundation for Inner Peace, ACIM.org. That's very similar to FACIM.org for the other organization.
Right.
And they have been doing some wonderful webinars for several years. And this last year, Matt McCabe has done a wonderful podcast series with Judy Scott-Schwitzen up until her passing a couple of months ago. And now Tam Morgan is taking over with Judy's daughter and will be the co-host of that series. And just some really wonderful interviews there and conversations, as well as the ongoing work that they're doing, moving forward to bring the course beyond the existing 27 translations. And there's several other languages in the works, as well as all the audio programs that correspond to all 3 volumes and the supplements, and just an enormous backlog of projects, and that they're bringing the course to even many more millions of people, and also continuing to do that work as well. So anyway, I always encourage people to support both organizations however they can. So yep.
Definitely. Well, and thank you, everybody, and Happy New Year.
Likewise. So
yeah,
yeah,
I'm sure we'll have lots of forgiveness opportunities.
as always.
Those don't really ever quit, do they?
No, but I think we can remember to smile a little more frequently and gradually,
we are going home. There's
exactly. Yeah,
no turning back now.
It's a done deal, like you said.
Done deal.
Yeah. Thanks again, Susan. It's always a delight to talk with you. Have a great rest of your year and a very joyous, peaceful New Year.
We'll talk again soon.
All righty.